This is a daily stretch routine that you can go through. So we'll start off on all fours and you'll lower yourself into a cobra. You're trying to emphasize getting some movement through the upper half of your spine, and you'll hold this for 10 seconds while you breathe. You should start to feel some lengthening through your abs, and then you'll sit back and try to roll forward and under to let the top half of your spine again flex forward. You let your head drop so that you can feel a little bit of extra stretching through the back side of the neck, and then you'll repeat back to the cobra. When you go back to the cobra, remember it's always the upper half of your spine that you're trying to emphasize. Sometimes it can help if you gently squeeze your glutes or your hamstrings. And you'll also be pointing your toes when you're in this position to try to lengthen the front side of your body. You'll sit back again. This will be another 10 seconds. And you'll hold and allow your head to tuck under a little bit more. Sometimes you can sit back towards your heels and allow yourself to roll from the upper half to emphasize just a little bit. And then you'll be coming back down into the cobra. And this will again be for another 10 seconds, remembering to point your toes, lift the neck and head as if you're looking toward the ceiling, but not so much that you jam the backside of your neck. And return one more time back towards, this is like a modified child's pose, remembering to get your range of motion through the upper half of your spine, breathing deeply through the abdomen. Next, you go to all fours, and we're going to be bending to the left and to the right. You'll allow your, in this case, your right ear to go towards your right hip and left ear to go towards your left hip. Put just a little bit of tension through the ground, minimal movement through your hips. And when you do this, you're trying to allow the upper half of your spine, the thoracic spine, to feel like it's lengthening slightly and then also side bending. You feel like you're lengthening a little bit through the top of the head so that you're elongating the spine and bending left and right. And oftentimes people will get small cracks in their spine. This will be somewhere between 5 to 10 in each direction, depending on how you're feeling that day. Remember, you can also work with your breath. Next, we'll do quadruped upper spine rotations. You put one hand behind your head and you bring the elbow down and through and then open toward the ceiling. This will be 5 to 10 repetitions on one side. When you lift, you're going to try to lead with the elbow and then make sure that your chin and head don't tuck underneath as you lift. So it's lifting toward the ceiling with the elbow, also with the head. Remember that you're still trying to get the upper half of the spine to open. Most common error when people do this is that the chin will start to drop down towards the ground, towards the belt line, which will create a forward C curve, and we do not want that. Go back to the other side again for 5 to 10 repetitions. Make sure that you breathe through this movement. We're not trying to jam in either direction. You'll be putting some pressure through the ground, through your bottom hand. Bottom hand will push, top elbow will lift. Next, we'll start going after some hip mobility. This is called the 90-90 stretch. So we'll move your hips into 90-degree angles at both the knees and the hips, and then see if you can bring your nose down to touch your knee. You'll hold there for 10 seconds, breathing normally, allowing everything to stretch, and then you'll switch to the other side and do the same. Remember that being able to touch the nose to the knee is the gold standard for this stretch. So if you can't do that, the goal will be over time that you can actually get the nose to contact the knee, and that will tell you that your body has enough flexibility in that direction. 2 to 3 sets of 10 seconds on each side. Once we finish those sets, we'll lay on your back and we'll work on internal hip rotation. So you're going to take your feet and put them about hip distance apart, making sure that you've got enough room to be able to open the knees, and then you'll drop one knee towards the inside, making sure that the non-dropped knee remains pointed straight toward the ceiling. You're going to feel some stretching through the outside top of your hips, turning into internal rotation. You do want to allow your foot to be able to move freely so that you don't put too much torque on your knee. Remember, the goal is to rotate your actual hip socket. And the other knee staying straight up in the air will make it so that your pelvis doesn't rotate, and so we're getting true hip rotation rather than pelvis rotation. This is going to be held for 10 seconds on each side, 2 to 3 reps on each side, depending on how stiff your hips may be feeling that day. Next, we'll go to a hamstring stretch, and we're also going to incorporate the foot into this. So the first one, your bottom knee will be bent up, your top foot will go straight toward the sky. You're going to very gently create a little bit of lengthening through the hamstring and then bend and flex the foot 5 to 10 times. You'll switch to the other side and do the same thing, gently bending and flexing the foot. That will allow you to get flexibility all the way through your feet. And if your shoes are off, you'll also want to be trying to curl your toes under. Second time you come back around, make sure you lengthen one leg all the way down towards the ground while the other goes toward the ceiling. That will allow for a little bit of separation through the pelvis. Remember, we just want a mild stretch to the hamstring, nothing intense. Next, we'll go to open book. So we're actually going to revisit the upper spine for a second. You'll stack both your knees, your bottom arm will go straight out in front, and your top arm will come over the top and lengthen towards the opposite wall. The gold standard would be to be able to get your top open hand all the way to the ground, but you don't want to force this. Once you get there, gently turn your head open towards the moving hand and hold it there. And then we'll go to the world's greatest stretch, which will be to pull your bottom foot backwards, turn down just a little bit so that the front thigh is stretching, and allow the upper half of your spine to open. Next, we'll go to the other side and we'll go back to the open book. So remember, you'll stack both of your knees on top of each other, open the top arm so it comes all the way open. And you want to make sure you get some stretching through your upper chest and your pecs. Big inhale, big exhale. You'll hold each for about 10 seconds. That's the gold standard for stretching, roughly 2 reps on each side. Allow that hand to slowly drift towards the ground with each breath. And make sure that you don't feel this in your lower back. That's very important. Then we'll go back to the world's greatest stretch, pulling one foot backwards and turning down so that the ground helps you to stretch the front of your thigh, and your upper spine will rotate slightly open. Allow yourself to look over the shoulder. All the way at the very end, we're going to do a slight reset. So lay all the way on your back. Try to let every muscle in your body relax and take a few deep abdominal breaths. This will help your body to reset and rebalance itself. And that concludes your everyday stretch.